I am very lucky to know the full history of the Rutland, right from the very beginning up to today. Father Raphael Short was the main instigator of the Rutland Centre. He was a psychologist in background, and he hired a number of staff, one of whom was Mary Bolton. When Father Raphael Short brought the Minnesota model to Ireland, brought this new treatment, it really changed the whole focus of treatment by providing the talking therapy and group therapy and education about addiction. Was beginning now to really help people to understand their own addiction and how it had developed. So it was revolutionary, really. They were pioneers. He was a pioneer in treatment. When I was undertaking the alcoholism counselling course, and we had a placement in the Rutland Centre, I was actually assigned to Mary Bolton's group. And so I had, again, the good fortune to see Mary in full flight, literally. People were absolutely respectful and honouring of Mary's wisdom.
I worked in Rutland Centre, started there back in the year 2000, worked there for about 14 years. Started off as a group counsellor, addiction counsellor, working in group, and then I took over the role of the aftercare coordinator. I saw a quite distinct change really in addictions that presented. I'd say if you took back to 2000, there were kind of clear lines, like there were alcoholics, there were drug addicts, there were gamblers, and the drug addicts were mainly heroin addicts at that time. And by definition, almost, they were, from a lower social strata. Whereas over the years, those lines have just become totally blurred. And we've seen much more presentation now of people with what we call polydrug, which would be addicted through alcohol, drugs and gambling. Food has come into the mix. So people would have, eating disorder and drink and drug issues. As I said, sex addiction has become more prevalent as well. So there's definitely a much more of a spread of addictions. And then if you add things like anxiety and depression, they're things that I think we're seeing more presenting now than would have been the case 15, 20 years ago,
In terms of my years at the Rutland Centre, it's a long time. It's, dare I say it, I think it's 30 years or thereabouts. And I think what is different, if you like, about the Rutland is there's a huge emphasis on family or concerned persons' involvement. And we very much stress that, because when somebody is addicted, it's not just them that's affected, it's the whole concerned persons, it's their families, etc. And they have a story too that has to be listened to. And if they're going to support the person subsequent to the Rutland, their pain needs to be acknowledged.
In the last few years, the Rutland has been focusing on Recovery Month in the month of September, and I really think it's an excellent idea, and especially now to have 40 years of recovery to speak about. And I suppose the real benefits of recovery is it is giving a focus to the people who have worked so hard to stay well, to be well, and to really expand their lives and to be productive in their lives, but also to begin to find themselves again.
Recovery for me is, I think, the one word that underlines it is change. So I think somebody coming into recovery have to be prepared to make very significant changes to their lifestyle. So, the obvious first change they have to make is to stop using whatever the drug or behaviour or whatever they were doing. So, that's a given. They've got to stop doing that. But then, and this is a big part of the work in the Rutland Centre, they have to recognise, well, what were the triggers or what were the issues that maybe they used their drugs or alcohol or behaviours. It's kind of self-medication, if you like. So a lot of the work that people do, that we do in Rutland Centre here, would be identifying what are the issues that underlie the addictive behaviour and how do people cope with it. Because the first thing they got to do then is learn a different way of coping. What we say, we give people the tools, we teach them mindfulness, we teach them self-care, we teach them to be aware of their emotions and feelings and that it's okay to express them. And then we also encourage them to participate, like to say, go to some of the fellowships, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, you know, and look for support.
Being a board member, I see the extraordinarily impactful work that is being carried out here, both in terms of the counselling work, which is just so significant, and the outreach of that work, because residential programs are provided and outpatient programs are provided, as well as programs for families. So I feel, you know, that Rutland going ahead into the future has enormous potential to develop and prosper. And I think it's so important to stop and take stock of the huge impact that all of these people and all of the counsellors and all of the household staff that have enabled people to recover.
I think recovery is about somebody having been through the trauma of addiction, having gone to the precipice and looked over, and being able to come back from it, and being able to have a life where they are content. A lot in terms of what I've learned about life, I have learned it from a lot of the people I treated. In my opinion, there is never such thing as a hopeless anything. It's just people have to sometimes go to very bad places, but there is a way out.